So today I figured I'd do a video on the S85. So M5, M6, up 2010, this is the V10 engine. So we're gonna do all the possible misfires on this engine. These cars are notorious for having misfire issues, and it could range from a wide spectrum of things that could cause it. First of all, before we pick any parts up or do anything at all, we have everything apart here. So now's the time to do this video. Gasoline. Crappy gasoline is a #1 misfire situation. And you'll know if you have bad gas, you'll have misfires across the board. You'll have misfire on all 10 cylinders. It could be lean codes. It could be all kinds of bizarre things. Obviously, on these cars, a regular scanner may not tell you exactly everything you need to know. You probably need BMW ISTA to tell you that, or a specialty scanner might get you close. But on these cars, as you know, you need to recalibrate and relearn the transmission periodically. You need all that for the clutch itself. You need it for the throttle actuators, just many layers of stuff. So anyhow, we'll pick up the very first thing and the most common thing, and that is these funky ignition coils they have. Now, if you have a misfire on one cylinder, this is usually the prime suspect on that. And these are about $100 a piece, and there's 10 of them, so it's $1,000. Can you put aftermarket ones in there? You probably physically could. Will it run right? No, it won't. Will not run right. The other thing too is to make sure that the plug-in that plugs into this is snapped in all the way. And you should be able to look down through the little top hole and make sure that the black plug is pushed all the way against that. And that'll cause a misfire too. Same way as a regular M52 or anything like that. I would say the next thing is going to be, let's see if I can drop oil over the floor. The Vanos units do go bad in these. I don't remember what the rebuild status. I don't think you can rebuild these too easy. So the Vanos unit itself has little sealing rings in it. And then on the back side of the Vanos unit, they have the solenoids. The Vanos solenoids have little O-rings in them. Also, the solenoids can go bad also. But that's not as likely suspect. Also, the little screens in the solenoids can go bad. That could cause misfire, no doubt. So next up, I'm trying to figure out where I put it here. Before we can go to that, spark plugs can also be an issue too. And these spark plugs got some miles on them. They're not horrible. These are NGK resistor. It's actually has the 2 electrodes on it. Probably not my favorite plug to use for these cars, but you get the idea. Anything stuck in there, too much wear on the electrode can cause all kinds of issues for sure. And then also on these cars, one thing that can cause error codes is the wrong weight of oil. You know, especially if you have some wear and tear in your car and you have an internal Vanos line like this that is leaking. So this is like a stainless steel braid over rubber. The rubber will get deteriorated inside from heat over the years. It'll start leaking out the side, so it can't advance the timing correctly. Now, in this case, if it's leaking and you use a thinner weight of oil, it's not going to advance the timing at all. It's going to leak all of it out of here and not advance anything. You're going to have rough idle, misfire, stumbling, check engine light, and all that kind of stuff. So the other thing you got to watch too, if you just have some random bizarre misfire codes. It could be somebody's had the engine apart already. It could be had gasket problem if somebody's had it apart, but not likely to be that if nobody's ever had it apart. It also could be leaking valves in the cylinder head if one's not sealing correctly. That could also be a problem if you have one cylinder throwing air codes only. It could also be the fuel injectors. S85 is notorious for having clogged fuel injectors because they sit around a lot. These cars do sit a lot. We're going to replace all 10 of these. We just cannot chance a failure and then it sticks open and floods your cylinder out. So next up, and I actually have had this issue before, is the Ionic Sensors. These go on the very front of the cylinder head. Now, if you have a car that has like the whole driver's side bank of cylinders not firing, or the whole passenger side, that'll be this unit. Usually ISTA will tell you if this is an issue but not always. If it's not bad enough for it to know, it may not tell you that at all. They have hard pipes. We have one that was crushed. They go around the back of the engine on top of the bell housing, and that'll cause all kinds of weird stuff too. So that has to replace on this one. Next up is going to be our engine ECU, E60s, and E61. All that stuff is notorious for getting water in the ECU. So this is on the passenger side, front cowling, and what'll happen is the drains will get stopped up and it cannot drain any kind of moisture gets in there out of the box, the ECU box, and it'll start backing up in the bottom of the plastic box, and it'll back up and flood this whole thing. Once you do that, you're in deep, deep, deep trouble. And these are S65, S65 ECUs, you can see here. And I know from my Red M5, it was a real nightmare trying to find somebody to clone a new ECU for you. And then when you put it in, it's only just begun. There's a whole bunch of programming, a whole bunch of stuff you have to do for the car to ever recognize the transmission, all the modules, everything has to be set up correctly. So if you have a car that has water in the ECU, which usually it won't start when you get that. Usually it'll either not crank, no crank, no start, or crank but no start. But usually it's no crank but no start. And the only way you can tell is take the ECU out, take the metal box off of it, look at the circuit board, and you can see right away if it's had water in it. It'll have that kind of either like a rusty water residue all over it, all over the circuit board, or it'll have that kind of bluish white corrosion around the solder points. So I mean, that's pretty much the rundown of it. Obviously, one other thing too is the plenums. They're both on top of the throttle bodies. If any of that's messed up, that'll cause issues too. Mass airflow sensor can also cause an issue. Having very, very, very dirty air filters can cause an issue with the mass airflow system. But overall, I would say 90% of misfires in these cars is going to be the bad Vanos line. It's going to be the bad ignition coils or some bad spark plugs. That's going to be most of it. If you take care of the car, a lot of that stuff doesn't fail all the time, right? So let's say your car has 93,000. Let's say your car has 80,000 miles on it. Let's say you just turn over 80. It's time to do rod bearings because you have no chance of things being eaten up at that point and being not fixable. It's also time probably to do ignition coils at that point, or at least check the state of things. If you do them all, you're going to go another 100,000, 80, 90, 100,000 miles without having an issue. So it's a little bit about preventive maintenance. It is a very unique engine. It's not something you just run and you can't not do stuff because it will just grenade itself, and then it's like 8 to 10 grand for another engine, and then you got to get it put in. Oh my God, it goes on and on. Maintenance is key to these, more crucial than any other BMW, I would say. And that's it. That's all for today's S85 Misfire video. Hope you guys found this helpful. If you follow these videos we put out, you guys should be able to run one of these cars without too much effort. And if you do the preventative, like we're always preaching to you guys, the cars should never have a catastrophic failure. They don't just blow up for no reason. It's almost always rod bearing stuff. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.